Aftersun, mental preoccupation after a long day. Written and read by Maryam. Aftersun is one of the most brilliant but most underrated movies of 2022. The movie is the first long story work of the director Charlotte Wells. The music is the melodious work of Oliver Coates. The young talented Frankie Corio plays the character Sophie, and the brilliant Paul Mescal plays the character Colin. The movie begins with a father and his daughter going on a summer trip. From the beginning, there is a camera recording so many frames of this summer trip. At first, the reason for focusing on this camera and the process of the recording is not apparent to the audience. But while the movie goes on, we can see a number of scenes taken in a club where there is an on and off light, so we cannot see right through the club. However, we can see Colin dancing, laughing, and wandering in his own world. Also, sometimes we see a female face whom we do not recognize until the end. The female figure appearing in the club scenes is Sophie, searching for her dad 20 years later through the recorded films remaining from that summer trip. With this introduction, let us walk through the movie. Aftersun is a slow narration of a father and daughter relationship through a summer trip. Charlotte Wells does not narrate a story focusing on the characters. She's making you pay attention to the course of the events instead of the characters. She's leading you to watch tremendous, picturesque details of a father and a daughter relationship. A man's conflicts versus himself and versus his daughter, and the anger and frustration of a woman struggling to get to know her father so many years later just through a set of recorded films. The next step is to emphasize Colin's conflicts with himself and his daughter. From the beginning to the end of the movie, we are exposed to a bunch of scenes where Colin is suffering from depression. Scenes of his sinking in his thoughts on the balcony, crying, standing on the banisters, and an unsuccessful attempt at suicide in the sea. All the evidence refers to the internal struggle of Colin. I believe this movie creates a very true and precise picture of depression, a kind of vague, intense irritation that we don't know the reason for. The audience either thinks that she or he is wrong about Colin being depressed, or she or he keeps watching to find out the reason for his depression. But in fact, there's no need at all to figure the reasons out. Director Wells only wants the audience to know that Colin is struggling internally, and yet he's trying so hard to keep Sophie away from his depression zone, which is the second conflict. Colin's conflict versus his daughter. An obvious example of the second conflict can be seen in the scene of Colin opening his hand plaster with pain, and yet managing to carry on a very normal conversation with his daughter. With the preceding course of the movie and with the help of the extraordinary music produced by Coates, throughout the movie, the audience is expecting something bad to happen. However, interestingly, nothing horrible happens to either of them, and they manage to successfully end the travel. This leads us to the final scenes taken in the airport, where Colin and Sophie express their love for each other without knowing that this is their last time together. With the camera focusing on Colin walking away and entering the club we understand that he's approaching the point of killing himself. So this is their last trip and hence their final memory. The last point is about Sophie. This trip means a lot to her since it is her last time traveling with her dad before his death. And as it is shown in the movie, this trip was a starting point for her to get to know herself for real. Moreover, she started to think about her major real-life preferences which affect her future. In spite of the importance of this trip, there are only a limited set of films for her to remember the last memories of them being together, to get acquainted with her deceased father, and last but not least, to find out the reason for his suicide. From Sophie's standpoint, this movie is actually her sincere effort to find the smallest signs of depression in her dad and to realize what was the big deal that forced him to run away from life and abandon her daughter. The answer is up to you and your unique interpretation of the movie. Thank you.